What did the evil chicken lay? Deviled eggs. Today, I'm going to recap a 2018 action drama called Kickboxer Retaliation. The movie begins by showing Kurt Sloane fighting in the ring. It's been 18 months since Kurt Sloane killed Tong Po and avenged the death of his brother, Eric. Now, he is a professional mixed martial artist who competed in MMA, where he defeated Ronaldo Sobral using his signature move. The scene then switches to showing Kurt, who is alone with Liu, who has now become his wife. Since marrying Kurt, Liu has resigned from the police force. After the fight was over, Kurt met with two men who claimed to be U.S. Marshals. They tell him that he must return to Thailand because he was involved in Tong Po's death a year ago. The memory of his fight against Tong Po flashed back into his mind. However, Kurt did not necessarily believe the two men. When he asked to see the badge of a U.S. Marshal, one of the men ambushes him from behind and they kidnap him. Kurt, who was already in Thailand, woke up in prison. Kurt then meets Thomas Tangmore, a billionaire who is also the mastermind behind the underground tournament where Kurt, Eric, and Tong Po competed some time ago. Thomas tells Kurt that when Tong Po is defeated, he should actually stay there as the new champion. But because he returns to his country, Thomas must find a new champion to replace Tong Po. Thomas then offered $1 million so that Kurt would be willing to fight the new champion, Mongkut, a giant fighter who weighs 400 pounds. Because Kurt refused, Thomas threw him into prison. The next day, Kurt is taken to prison, where many Tong Po fans harbor anger at him for killing their idol. In prison, Kurt is then shown the figure of Mongkut, who is placed in a special facility in the prison. He even just set foot in prison. Tong Po fans have attacked him repeatedly. Not only is he under attack from the prisoners, he also finds himself having to receive a whip sentence from the prison guards every night. One day, when Kurt was assigned to clean, he saw two prison guards chatting while holding cell phones. He then pretends to fall and steals the cell phone belonging to one of the prison guards. When he was alone, Kurt immediately called his wife and told her about his whereabouts in Thailand, as well as the precarious situation he was in. Not long after, the prison guards finally found out that Kurt had committed the theft. He was immediately taken to a special room to receive another caning. The next day, Kurt is challenged by a prisoner to a fight, and he can easily knock him out. It didn't stop there. Some prisoners also felt challenged to fight with him. However, Kurt was able to beat them all. Seeing Kurt's fighting ability, a prisoner named Briggs then attacked Kurt with a punch that was quite deadly, making him a little overwhelmed. The two of them got into a fight before the prison guards came and punished them. Kurt and Briggs both received very painful lashes, but in contrast to Kurt, who seemed to be in a lot of pain, Briggs actually seemed fine and could endure the pain. Meanwhile, Liu finally arrived in Thailand after hearing from her husband. She then went to a man, who had been a colleague in the police force, to seek information about Thomas Tangmore, who had forcibly brought her husband to Thailand. After Liu gave some money, the police officer told her that Thomas was a millionaire who owned a prison-like facility in northern Thailand. Back in the prison. In his cell, Kurt was approached by Briggs, who asked how he was. Kurt then asked Briggs about how to endure the pain of being whipped. Briggs then told his secret to get rid of pain by using medicinal plants. After that, he and Briggs became friends. As Kurt walks out, he meets his Muay Thai teacher, Master Durand, who was sent to prison for his involvement in Tong Po's death. Not only that, Durand was even blinded because he was reluctant to tell Thomas the location of Kurt's whereabouts. Although he can no longer see, Durand considers his blindness a gift because he can train his hearing acuity, which allows him to know the direction of enemy attacks without seeing them. Elsewhere, Thomas, realizing that Kurt still won't accept his offer to fight Mongkut, then decides to kidnap his wife and take her as a hostage so that Kurt will accept his offer. The next day, Liu met a woman named Gamon at the train station. Liu asked Gamon about Thomas and asked her for help locating her husband's whereabouts. Gamon then agreed to Liu's request and immediately left. As Liu walks down the station platform, she is confronted by Thomas's henchmen who intend to kidnap her. After that, one of Thomas's men, Crawford, came to Kurt in prison and showed him a video showing Liu being held captive by Thomas' henchmen. Seeing his wife now a prisoner then made Kurt angry. Crawford tells Kurt that he can save his wife if he accepts Thomas' offer. But if he still insisted on refusing to fight, then his wife would be killed instantly. Finally, Kurt was forced to accept Thomas' offer to fight Mongkut to save his wife. Before fighting Mongkut, Kurt puts a condition on Thomas. He only wants to be trained by Durand and Briggs. Not only that, but he also put forward a condition that he was allowed to participate in underground battles to test the results of his training. Unexpectedly, Thomas agreed to all the conditions put forward by Kurt. The next day, Kurt begins his training with Master Durand, where Durand tells him to train with his eyes closed. Next, Kurt practiced deadly punching techniques with Briggs, a former professional boxer. To prepare his mentality against the big Mongkut, Briggs asked Kurt to face a prisoner whose body size was almost the same as Mongkut's. To complete his training portion, Kurt then practiced avoiding fast and accurate attacks from the deadly kick of a former soccer athlete, Ronaldo. After practicing for a long time, Kurt could finally master Briggs' deadly punch technique, dodging Ronaldo's deadly kick and defeating the big inmate. When Thomas offers to take Kurt out of prison and put him in a special facility, Kurt agrees on the condition that his team also move there with him. On the other hand, Durand goes to one of Mongkut's training sessions, only to learn that the fighter is a product of bioengineering by a man named Rupert, who has developed a combination of adrenaline and steroids, thus making Mongkut virtually invincible, except for one small weakness, a glass jaw. Meanwhile, Gaúcho manages to infiltrate the special facility and encounters Kurt. While training with Gaúcho, Kurt sees one of Thomas's men named Somsak, who has the exact same tattoo as the one he saw in Liu's hostage video. He then assumes that the man is the one who kidnapped Liu and knows his wife's whereabouts. Long story short, Kurt went with Durand and Gaúcho to the underground battle arena under the close supervision of Thomas's men led by Somsak. Kurt and Durand met Joseph King there, whose last fighter decimated Kurt in the first movie. This time, Kurt will face Moss, Joseph's flagship fighter. While Kurt and Moss were fighting, Durand walked away from the crowd, grabbed a cell phone belonging to one of the spectators, and called his son, Travis. He asked Travis to come pick him up immediately. It didn't take long for Kurt to defeat Moss. Because the champion fighter lost, Joseph then handed over the prize money to Kurt. However, Gaúcho immediately took the money and squandered it, which caused a commotion among the spectators who were busy picking up the notes. Gaúcho did this on purpose to distract Thomas's men. When the situation was chaotic, Kurt immediately took the opportunity to immobilize Somsak and took him away with the help of Gaúcho and Travis, who came by driving a car. When Kurt and the others left in the car, Durand chose to stay behind and kill Thomasman. After torturing Somsak to get information about Liu's whereabouts, Kurt finally finds out that his wife is being held hostage in Thomas' apartment. Kurt, Gaúcho, and Travis then infiltrated Thomas' apartment and found the man chatting with two women. Thomas, who had anticipated Kurt's arrival, then ordered his two women to attack him. It turned out that the women were tough fighters, where Kurt seemed a little overwhelmed against them. When Kurt was fighting the women fighter, Thomas immediately used the opportunity to escape. Kurt finally incapacitated the two women and managed to save his wife, despite getting a little resistance from Thomas's men. When Kurt and the others were about to leave, they were surrounded by Thomas's heaps of men. It turned out that Thomas had ordered his men to stop Kurt and the others. It didn't stop there. Thomas also sent Mongkut to immobilize Kurt. Just as Mongkut was about to hit Kurt, Liu suddenly stopped him and Mongkut hit her in the stomach so hard that she fainted. Seeing his wife lying helpless, an angry Kurt then told all of Thomas's men to tell their master that he would face Mongkut anytime and anywhere. Long story short, Liu, who was in a coma for several days after receiving Mongkut's fatal blow, finally woke up and allowed her husband to fight Mongkut. Durand then tells Kurt about Mongkut's weakness and asks the man to attack his lower jaw. Finally, the fight is set at the old Muay Thai temple with both Kurt and Mongkut ready to fight, where Thomas made a big bet on this big fight. Before the fight begins, Durand gives Kurt advice to stay focused. In the first round, Kurt immediately launched a barrage of attacks at Mongkut, but it seemed that his attack had no effect on Mongkut's large body. In the final minutes before the first half ended, Mongkut almost knocked out a defenseless Kurt after taking several punches from him. Luckily, the gong sounded and the first round was over. In break time, Liu realized that Mongkut was injected with a serum, which instantly made him more powerful. Mongkut did not give Kurt a chance to attack and beat him out in the second round. Then he throws Kurt to a statue and virtually kills him. Seeing Kurt unconscious, a medic was brought in to check on Kurt's condition, and the man said that Kurt had died. Knowing this, Liu and Durand were then very devastated. When it is believed that Kurt has died from his injuries, Liu finds Rupert's suitcase of adrenaline and uses a needle to revive Kurt. Apparently it worked, and Kurt finally got back on his feet. When Thomas announces Mongkut's victory, Kurt demands that the fight continue until one of them actually dies. This time, he will fight Mongkut with his eyes closed. Kurt started launching attacks to hit Mongkut's jaw, the big man's weak point. However, his efforts have not yielded results because Mongkut is still unmatched by physical strength. In the end, Mongkut once again threw Kurt at the statue and this time took him to a nearby fountain to drown him. As his head was in the water, Kurt was reminded of the fighting moments in his life. This brought Kurt back to his feet so that he could grab a nearby chain and wrap it around his fist, allowing himself to match Mongkut's punch. Using his skills, Kurt gets the upper hand and knocks Mongkut down. When Mongkut comes back up and stabs him, he resorts to taking Mongkut down with the chain, wrapping it around his neck and choking him out, resulting in Mongkut's neck breaking and fatally killing him. Kurt was immediately declared the winner and surrounded by Durand, Liu, Gamon, and Travis. Meanwhile, in prison, hearing the news that Kurt has beaten Mongkut, Briggs is smiling. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.